Hey y'all. Okay, so normally I do videos on my garden, but I wanted to show another hobby of mine that is pretty fun, pretty interesting, and it's quilting. So I haven't made quilts in a while, and I started doing that again. Just got a little nick to do it, and now I'm doing it. But I wanted to show you how I'm doing this and about how much it cost based on how I get my materials and the supplies and things like that. So what we're going to be talking about today is the double wedding ring quilt. Okay, so my bed is a king size bed, and I'm going to go over what I used for my bed and how I get my measurements. So if you have a smaller bed that you want to do, you can kind of figure how much material you need. For my king size bed, first thing I did was I bought some jelly rolls off of online. I got these off Amazon. There's different, they'll come in either like stuff like this. So that's called a jelly roll. You get different colors here. Look how pretty those are. Let's show this one. Here's this one that I'm using for this project, and it came in a pack like this. You can get them that comes like this. So that's called a jelly roll. So for my quilt, I'm doing roughly, there is 5 squares over and 5 squares up. And I used 1.5 jelly rolls for my wedding ring parts for this quilt. And I'll show, that's these circles, each square of circles, and I'll show you what a square is. So I needed 1.5 jelly rolls, and each jelly roll for my project was 42 strips in a pack. They're 2.5 inches wide and 44 inches long. So that gives you an idea for a bed my size. And also each square that I ended up is 14.5 inches by 14.5 inches. And I went 5 over and 5 up for the main top part of my bed. And when I say main top part of my bed, let's see, I thought I drew a picture somewhere. Okay, I did. So this is a mattress. The main top of your mattress right here is what I'm talking about. Now, if you want to do border to kind of hang down over the bed, then that's additional. But just for the actual double wedding ring part, that's just going to be the masterpiece, art piece on the top of the bed. I needed 5 over and 5 up. So that's the number of squares for mine. And I'll show you, I've already started on this, but I'm going to show you what it looks like per square. So this is a square. Okay. That's your square. And I've already pieced together 4 of these. Let me see. I don't know if I can zoom out. Right there. So that's what the double wedding ring is looking like so far. Let's show how that looks. Oh, it's pretty. All right, so let's talk about my material that I got and the backing and all that fun stuff, and show you how you piece it together. For your jelly roll, mine came, there was 14 different colors in the strips, the 44-inch strips. And if you didn't want to use, I got thread in my face. If you didn't want to use different colors, I like the jelly rolls, and I like having multiple colors in mine. That way I have a variety of colors for my wedding ring. And you'll see right here. Let's talk about this, because some people might not want to do this many colors. So I used all different colors. That the jelly rolls had multiple colors, and that's what I like when I'm cutting those up, and it gives it that colorful look. But if you didn't want to do different colors, you can just cut the strips, and I'll show you the template. That's the template for your wedding ring strips, there and there. So if you wanted to use just one color, for that. For your wedding rings, you could just use one color and just use this one to cut your ring parts. And these little lines here are where you sew, and these are where you mark, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Or you can do like I do and just have multicolors to give it a little more razzle dazzle to your quilt. So we'll start and show you first of all cutting these with the templates. You can get, it's called the double wedding ring template set. Comes with all these. Okay, that's what comes in the set. And you can find those on Amazon, probably on different platforms. You just look up double wedding ring template set, and here they are, the pieces. That's all of them. Okay, so when I start cutting for my jelly rolls, I'll pull these out and show you. So I lined all the different colors up, and you can use, let's find it. There's a cutter set, one of these. Okay, you can cut multiple pieces all at once, and you can get a cutting board that you place your material on. You can get different sizes online. You can find them Amazon, Walmart, but it's just a cutting board for sewing. You can look those up, different prices for different sizes that you set your material on and cut them. So whenever I do my jelly rolls, this came in 14 different colors, and there was 3 per color. So I just lined one color each and stacked them thick, which is, I think, what this is. Okay, yep. And then once I stacked them all, 14 colors, then I placed them down with this over top on my cutting board. And then I use this and cut both sides. Okay, we'll show that. So this is my cutting board, and I've already got all these strips already cut and ready to go in order. I like doing this because it gives it multiple colors and you don't have to worry about mix matching. It's already, you just keep counting out 6 at a time, and I'll show that in a second. But I place this down right here, use this, that's to protect it, and that takes that shield down. So there's your blade. Excuse my dirty nails, I am a gardener, I have garden nails, but you place that down, hold it firmly, and then you have this back side that's got the chunky end. Don't do it that way because that gets in the way. Flip it over to where the blade is fully facing it, and then you push really hard, straight up, and then when you're done with that, you flip it over this way, and then you'll cut, and then you just keep going, flipping, 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 and then when you're done, you'll have all your different colors already ready right here. And then you count 6 at a time. So you'll count 6, and then I do 6 times 4, and then actually 6 times 8, and that will make, let me show this. We'll show what we're talking about. Okay, here's your wedding ring right here, double wedding ring. So these right here, 6 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a curve. So you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you'll need 8 of those sewn together, 6 per set, to do your wedding ring. And I'll show how I do that, how I sew them and how I cut them with the next step. So again, the first part of the cutting, that's template A. That's to get your pieces. But if you didn't want to do multiple pieces, you wanted just one color, you would skip that. Hold on. Got a little bit of a mess here. And you would just use this. So I don't think that would fit that. No, it wouldn't fit like that. But if you had just regular yardage and not jelly rolls, let's get a piece. So when you're cutting those, after you sew all these together, they'll be sewn like this. 2, 3, 4, sorry about the dogs, 5, 6. Okay, you'll sew 6 of those together, and whenever it's done, I'll show what that looks like and how I cut it into this shape. All right, so we're getting 6 pieces at a time to make this section. So here I've got 2 already sewn together. Those are different colors, you can't tell here. There's a blue color and then a white. Okay, and then you want to go about 1/4 of an inch over. So whenever you're cutting these, and let me kind of show right here. So when you're cutting those, that's upside down. See that line here? That's where your sew line is. Why is it showing a reflection? But that's where you're going to be sewing, expected to be sewing that far over. There's my sew line right there. You can see that right there. So there's 2, and I just grabbed my little sections, and I've already got these already sectioned out in order and clipped, so I know I've got all my material, enough material for the whole project. So there's my sewing material, put like the upside, there's the back side of those, and then there's the front side. Put the 2 front sides together, and you want the bigger section. See how this is wider up top and skinnier at the bottom? The bigger section goes up top because you want it to kind of have that curvature. So let's piece those together. The face part's up, and then we're going to sew over about 1/4 of an inch down. There we go. So now we have 3. Okay, this is the finished sewn part, and see how it has that little bit of a curvature? That's because that top part is wider up top, and you want that to be curved. And then you can press that with your fingernails. Don't pull it. You don't want to stretch it. Just press it with your nails. You can use an iron to press these down if you wanted, and I'll do multiple at a time, but for this purpose, demonstration purpose, Lord, I can't talk, we're just going to do one at a time. Okay, so for this, make sure that's lined up, centered really good. So you want all your colors. There's 2 colors at the end. See if I can zoom out there. Okay. And to make this look like this, I'm using this. You can use scissors, you can mark it. If you don't want to buy one of these and one of these cutting boards, you can just mark it with a pen. But make sure that's lined up good on there. And then I just push face it. There we go. There you go. There is your finished piece. Now I do want to show something with this template that you also need to use. Let's get my pen. So when you're sewing, to help match up your pieces, you can do all these lines. Some people cut those with scissors, like nick it. I don't. I just use my ink pen, and I don't use all of them. I did at first, but I'm just realizing that I only need to do the end ones. So I just mark the end pieces like that. I don't go all the way down because you don't want to go beyond that sew line, because it will show up. So I just go just below the sew line, and that's where I'm going to be matching pieces up. Well, I thought I forgot this one, but you can see them right here. There's your sew line. sew line, sew line. By the time it's said and done, for one square, again, you're going to need 8 of these chunks that are already cut, marked, and ready to go. Okay. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need one more to finish that one, and then I'll have enough for a section. But if you didn't want to do all this sewing, and you just wanted to use one color, so you wanted your wedding rings to be one color, instead of all these colors, you could just probably get material like this. This is several layers. I'm not going to use this because this is my accent color, but literally, you could just put that down there and just cut around all the edges, and then again, just mark your last 3 on each side. Don't go beyond that sew line, and that would be a little more simple than using multiple colors, but that's just a little side thing. Now, we'll get started on showing the other sections, which is your background pieces right here and your accent pieces right here. Okay, there's those 2. And then we'll grab our third one. And again, you don't have to do this if you just wanted to use one color. Put that down. I do my first one down, and then three, face up, everybody's face up and sandwich shut. Gives you an idea of sewing those together. There's 4 colors. Use a lot of excess thread when you're doing multiple colors here, just to show that, because you're cutting all that off when you're done. And this is number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Okay. There we go. This one's ready to be taken over and trimmed if you're doing one at a time. Now, I do want to show, if you didn't have one of these cutting things and you were doing it by hand, again, press that down with your nails. So you don't want to pull it, just press down flat. Put your piece here, and you could make sure it's centered really good, so you got your end pieces on there. You could just mark it like this and then cut it with scissors if you didn't have one of these. So I'm just showing you the different options. Make sure, of course, you do that little slant right there for sewing purposes. When you're matching all this up, go in. Okay, this is just to show if you're cutting by scissors. And got our little 3 lines at the ends, 3 lines at the end. Okay, there it is, squared up. So I just cut along my lines, just being careful not to go beyond what you drew. There we go. See? Okay, so for each square here for the ring, I have my 8 sections of this. Now I need to cut the background part. That's the green. So what I did to save money, and the most expensive part of this was my jelly roll fabric, which was $23 per pack, and I used 1.5 packs for my king size bed. So that was a good chunk of money. But if you're not too picky, I like to go to Goodwill and get, or thrift, any kind of thrift store, and find good sheets. This is a good material sheet. You can find pretty colors of sheets. I go and buy them for $2 each currently. Some Goodwill sell them for $4 or $5 each. It just depends on where you go. Locally, they're $2 a sheet. And I got several queen size sheets, so you could get enough material with just buying $2 thrift store, yard sale, whatever sheets that has a pretty print, and you can make this way cheaper. So for the background, the easiest way to do this, you could either cut 8-inch squares or you can cut 16-inch squares, and layer those up for cutting quickly. And this is for demonstration purposes, to show what you're cutting from each one. My quilt, this right here is considered your full square, and for mine, I needed 25. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, 5 up. That's 25 big squares. Since this comes out to about 14 1/4, you can round up to 16, one big 16-inch square, which would be, say this would be, I've already got mine cut, but just for demonstration purposes, say this is 16 across, 16 down. You'll take template C and template D, and that's how you will lay those to cut off of your 16-inch by 16-inch, and you should get that by the time 16 over, 16 down, and you'll fit them like this, these templates, and cut. And one full cutting of a 16 by 16, I needed 25 of those for my project. So if your blanket was smaller, like say 4 across and 4 up, that'd be 4, 4, 4, and 4, that'd be 16. But since mine's bigger, I needed 25 of these cut. So whenever I'm sewing, I flip them around backwards, and I'll show you that as I'm sewing because it helps match up your mark lines. We'll show that shortly. So put that on, and that's flipped backwards, so I can mark the back side of it, and I'm just doing the edge right here. Don't go beyond that sew line. And I just do the 2 on both ends. You can do all of them if you want to help line up. I just found that this is all I need for my purpose. It doesn't want to mark, it's too soft. Too soft. So we mark that, 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 and that. So I just did the edges. So when you're sewing these together, remember the lines we marked on this. Let me find one that's a lighter color. Right there's a line. So face side up, flip it over. You're going to match those 2 lines up right there and there. Piece that together like that, and you're going to sew a 1/4 of inch, and then you're going to have to pivot as you're sewing. Pivot that around and around. See how those 2 ends are coming back together right here? There's a line and there's a line. So when you're sewing, you're going to have to take your time to get those to come together like that. Okay, like that. Make sure that's perfectly lined, face it toward it. Okay, and then the last section. Okay, there we go. All right, so to mark these, it's the same. I like to do the back side because it helps when you're matching up when you're sewing. So see, that's my back side of that. Place that on and mark just the ends. You can do all like I said if you want. I just match up the ends. That's been working for me. Okay, there we go. So that one's marked the ends. It's ready. And then we have this one. It's marked and ready. Those little marks. Okay, let's show how to piece these together. Okay, so to match these all together, you have your piece here. And then we're going to take one of these. So they're going to come together like that. But I'm going to flip this over. Now this is where I talked about why I did the back side of these, because you're going to find this line right there, and I'm going to match this line up to it like that. And then make sure that this comes up, like, see how that comes together right there on the back. You want those to go over, and you see that slant. Remember when we talked about that slant? So that's how far over that you're going to need to sew right there, which comes to about halfway on this piece. So let's take it down, and I'm going to put one stitch in just so it don't, whenever I start the sewing, it don't slip out. But when you're sewing this, you're going to have to kind of maneuver this way and this way to keep it all lined up. This is what makes this quilt very difficult for some people, is trying to get that lined up. But I'll try to take my time and show that as we go. Okay, we've made it to that first line. And we're going to tilt it a little bit so they're lined up as good as possible. And just keep lining those up. Again, you gotta kind of pull this one out and this one back a little bit. Just take your time. And that's gotta go back a little bit. That bottom one this way, this one this way. Okay, we're almost to the end. Okay, that's the first one. Now, when you pull that open, gently, don't pull, just gently push it with your nails to line it up. Okay, and there you go. That's the first section. Now, I like to take my scissors and make this a straight line to get that bulk right here. So see how that line goes like this? Just want to cut that excess off like that so it's straight. This side's already pretty straight, the side I started with. Okay, there you go. Now, I want to show your accent pieces. Let's talk a little bit about that. For the accent pieces, which is this right here. these two, right there. Some people will use 2 different colors that's different from all the other colors. I just bought this sheet at Goodwill for $2. It was like a twin, I can't remember, I think it was a twin size sheet. And just cut it up into squares and cut these. These are roughly 2 1/4 inches by 2 1/4 inches to cut from. And I have multiple here. And again, you have your line right there that's diagonal. That's important whenever you're sewing. I'll show in a minute. But you just place those down and then cut them. And then like with the others, these 2 right here, you're going to draw your lines. So I've already done some here. Here's what the pieces are when they're done. So there it is on top. And then I've got my line here, and that's for sewing purposes to know to match everything up. And make sure, of course, like I said, you cut those 3 edges off. That will help you navigate where to sew that on to your strips over here. So how you do that, and that was, I can't remember if I said, that was template E. Okay. So you're going to take this right here, and you're going to put 1 on each end. Now, you have your 3 corners that are nipped, and then you have this pointy corner. The pointy corner goes out, like that. It will point out. And when you're doing this side, the same thing. Find that pointy corner, it's going to go out, like that. So once you get that lined up, pointy corner out, face side up, then I flip it, and you're going to line that up. Now you see that line right there, and there's a line right there. Those match up, and make sure that's straight. And how that, you have that nicked line right there, that's where you're going to start sewing from, is where that corner comes up. So let's put it here. And let's sew. Okay, that's one side. Don't pull it, just push down with your nail, and that's a straight line. See that? It's one straight line. Get another one. I need my little piece to draw my lines from. It already has lines on it, I didn't even see it. Okay. So we find our pointy corner, which is right here. So it goes like that. Pointy corner goes out, face up, flip it over, line it up. Okay, and again, see where it's angled? You're going to start your sewing right where that angle is right there, and where this is angled, right here, your sewing will end right there. So it comes straight across there. Okay, make sure everything's straight. This is a very difficult quilt, y'all, but it's pretty, it's worth it. So I got our first thing down, and let's do our straight line. There we go. Flip it over, don't pull. Press it. You can use an iron if you have one, but I just use my nails, press that flat. So that's your first piece. You've got your background, your main ring, and then your 2 accents on each side. Now, we'll set that aside. We'll grab another strip right here. And then we're going to get this edging. So that is face up, And then we're going to flip that down like that. Find our 2 lines. Here's the back of this and the front of that. Make sure those lines are straight, and then we're going to sew those right about the middle. And then take your time. Got to keep lining those up to make sure this way, this that way, so the edges are in line. Now, if you did have your lines, that would help you know how far to go over, but I'm going by the edge here, just visually looking at it. Okay, and then that. Make sure that that's up right there. And it's about in the middle. So you'll end right about in the middle of that. See how the line comes around right about the middle. There's that. All right, so for this one, okay, this one you have the background, the ring, and the 2 accents. But for the second piece, you're going to have the background, the ring, and the center. So face up, flip it over, find your lines at the end, right there. There we go. And again, I'm going to go about halfway. I'm going to start right about the halfway mark. There we go. First one in. Let's sew it. And again, you got to kind of move the top and bottom. As you go. To keep those in line. And see how my lines here and here are coming together. Turn them. And then make sure that that's all lined up. And you want to end about halfway. Okay. There we go. Press it. And see how this little piece comes out. I just nicked that off in a straight line so it's straight. This side that I started with is already pretty much straight. Press it down. Now we want to piece the 2 together like that. This can be a little bit of a challenge. So they're both face up. Flip it over. Now you want your accent piece right here to line up with that edging right here. See how that's flipped up? The top of that green. You want that lined up so that accent will meet your end of your wedding ring here. And make sure that that crease before you start the wedding ring color on this side meets right there. So it should line up perfectly, and you really gotta watch how you do this so it lines up good. This can be very tricky too. So we've got our accent meeting that wedding ring in. Let's aim it like that. Go down. Now we're at the wedding ring colors meeting this green centerpiece, and you gotta guide it. Keep guiding. Keep guiding. All right, here you're coming to the end. This accent piece which is the tricky part. You need to line that up with this corner right here, the wedding ring, and then the outer green part. Line that up like that. And you're gonna have to do kind of like some weird maneuvering. And it will circle. Make sure that's straight. Circle around. Now let's take a look at it. See, the accent met this edge of this half, and then met this part. Just pinch it down, and there you go. You have one section. Let's go over here and look at this. So here's my quilt. Square. So we've just completed one section. That's that. So we're going to do 4 of these total. 1, 2, 3, 4 to sew together to make the square. So I got 4 of these done, and we want those 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll take the first 2, and we want those facing out. So the 2 rings will go out, and you see your 2 accent pieces here that's going to meet up. So when you're sewing these, I like to not do the center edge. I start at the accent edge and make sure they're lined up right at the seams. So there's that seam and this seam. And we'll put her in here. Straight line. There you go. First 2. Now we'll do the other 2. You want those again facing the direction of out. Face up, flip over, find your accents right here and here, and match them up at the seams, and then sew straight line down. Final 2. There you go. We'll take those and these, and you have your square looking like that. Okay. And then you want to, they're both face up, flip this over. Make sure that your edges there match up. The accents are matching right at the seam. Take a little peek in there and look. Mine, I'm going to point something out here in a minute when I get done about this. Make sure these accents are lined up at the end. Okay, whoops. Here's my first square. Let's go here and take a look at it. There we go. Now, one thing to point out, and it's not going to matter really much, but this right here on me, it just keeps coming misaligned. You can see it goes down, up, over. Everything else is lined up pretty good. This does not matter because whenever you're quilting, you're going to be using your designs. Some people, we'll talk about that later, when you're hand quilting, or if you have a machine to do it, I'm just going to hand quilt mine because those quilting machines are about $1,700. But you'll use threads to do circles or squares or twirlies. It just depends on whatever design that you prefer to do. Some people might do like a flower in the middle. It just depends on what you want to do, but that will help hide that. And you do those in different thread colors too. Like you can pick like a blue or maybe a green or a pink for your threading as you're quilting. But let's look at this. Let's see if we're spaced out a little bit. So I want mine 1, 2, 3, 4. Mine's going to be 5 over. So I'm just going to match this one up. It'll be my 5th end. Face up, flip it over. And I'm paying attention to those accents which are now in the center. I'll start there and then get my edges right there. So this is ready. We'll come over here and sew this 5th piece on, since mine are 5 pieces wide, and we're doing 1 straight row at a time, and then we'll piece the rows together after we get them all done. Okay, we've got this lined up again. We can make sure those accent pieces are lined up. That's really important. That's more important to me than the ends. Sure those are staying in line. Okay, so after I get my 5 across like that, then I'll match it up. So the one thing that's important about matching this up is making sure that those center accent pieces match up along the quilt. Let's see. So once I've got those pretty much in line, then I will flip that over. And then I have, let's see, these little clips. So I will try to start in the middle here and make sure that those accent pieces match with those. And then I will clip it. Just put a clip there to hold it. These are sewing clips. And find this one, line it up. You can see those accent pieces and these, match it up. And I'll do that all the way down all 5 rows, or all 5 segments, and then sew my straight line, and we'll come back. Okay, so before I start really getting down here, I'll double check. I took that clip off, and just making sure that those accent pieces are touching right at the seams. And then just got it. So this is 4 rows sewn together. I have one more yellow that's going to go on this end, And then this is what I was talking about with making sure that those accent pieces line up whenever you're piecing this together, so it comes together pretty good. But we'll get the last row on and then start hand quilting. So for the quilting, basically you're going to hand quilt it if you don't have a quilting machine. I'm going to use these right here, embroidery yarns that I got at my local Walmart. These were about 57 cents each. And at this point, you can sew like circles or squiggly lines or maybe some diamonds or maybe like a flower or a heart or whatever that you want to do. And you're going to just stitch it through all the layers to hold the batting and the back part to the top of the quilt. So when that's done, then I'll worry about trimming everything up along the edges, flipping that down, and then I can use my sewing machine to go across that, and then I can come in with some embroideries and also like twirl or circle or whatever I want to do, stripe designs on the edging. Okay, so I thought I'd show so far how I'm doing this. Got my thread here. So I'm just lifting up the blanket all the way. And it would help if I had one of those ring things that holds these in place. But let me see if my camera's up. And we're just going to go down, and up, kind of in a straight line, as straight as possible. And right here it'd be good to have one of these thimbles to push it through because this is thick. There you go. Before I reveal the final quilt, let's talk about the price. So I used 1.5 jelly rows. Those were $46. I still have half a row left, so technically it's a little less than that, but we'll put 46 with a half a jelly roll pack left. 2 500-yard thread spools for $8. The batting was $14. The 6 quilting threads, the yarns, was $4. That was the red yarn stitching I did at the end. The sheet for the backing at Goodwill was $2. Brought it home, washed it, it's mint condition. And 2 additional sheets at Goodwill that I used for the accents in the background, which is another $4. If I would have got the jelly roll, instead of the jelly rolls, if I would have got like maybe 6 different colored sheets at Goodwill for $2 each, that could have been $12 for the wedding rings. Instead of 46, so I could have got this even cheaper if I would have done that. But my total for everything was $78. So it could be more if you bought material all brand new at the store, or it could be less if I would have gotten all the material from Goodwill instead of buying the jelly rows. So that's what my total cost was. Now let's look at the quilt. This is the final quilt. There's all the hand stitching. I just did the diamond parts of it. And I folded the edges of the sheet up. It's got padding in here too, or the batting, and just sewed it around the corners. That's my border right there. And then this is what it looks like on the reverse side. It's got a nice little diamond type pattern on the flip side. But I might end up taking some of this stitching just like this and maybe doing some twirls or something along the side and put like a little message to my daughter who wants this blanket, like maybe love mom or something in the bottom corner. But that's how you make the double wedding ring quilt and hand stitch it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye.